This is the Sattler Files.
A kiss, a long embrace, a fond farewell should be personal. That's why personal funerals allow you to remember the life of your loved ones in a way that truly reflects their individual character. It's the difference that makes every goodbye unique. For more information about planning a special goodbye, visit personalfunerals.com.au, because every goodbye is different.
This is the Sattler Files.
Welcome back to the Sattler Files. This is Murray Korf, and with me in the studio is Daniel McKeag from Perslow Funerals. G'day, Daniel.
Good morning, Murray.
A lovely day today.
Beautiful day.
Indeed it is. But we talk about funerals and we talk about death, and we talk about all sorts of things pertaining to that. And our segment is called Lifting the Lid, because what we're trying to do is to have people understand what processes are involved right from the time that someone passes, a loved one passes, right up to the post-funeral process of grieving and all of that sort of stuff. And we hope that people, if they are in a position like this, that where someone is imminently passing away or anything like that, that these sorts of conversations that we have help them to understand what the processes are. And one of those things, of course, is if you are in a situation where a loved one is at home, it's been their wish to be at home, and they pass away. What happens? As soon as that happens, you obviously know it happens, but who do you call? What do you do? A lot of people don't know what to do, particularly if it's the first time they've experienced this.
We're quite lucky when people are passing away at home. We've got the services of things like Silver Chain and locum doctors now that are coming around to the home. So quite often what you'll find is that the Silver Chain nurses or the doctors will explain to the family what has to happen. If a person's is terminally ill, it's an expected death, then you'll find that the family will make a call directly through to the hospice, the Silver Chain, and, the doctor, for them to be able to come out and just to be able to make sure that they can issue a certificate of life extinct. That gives us permission then to be able to come out to the family home and bring the person back into our care. Quite often you'll find that there's no rush to that. And when a person passes away at home, it's also a time where some people want to come and gather at the home, pay their condolences and respects, and that can be delayed for several hours, before we have to be able to get involved or come out and see them.
Okay.
The alternatives, obviously, some people are feeling uncomfortable at that point, and they want us there as quick as possible. Okay. And I guess if you're ever unsure, just by ringing the funeral director, we'll give you step-by-step instructions as to who have you contacted, who's been looking after the person who's passed away, and those type of things. And it makes it a lot easier just to be able to pick up that one phone call and know what to do.
Okay, so when you have Silver Chain and others involved, there's obviously a process that they inform you of, but of course there's always the chance that someone passes suddenly without any of that, and it was an unexpected death. What happens then? Who should you call? What should you do?
I guess if it's unexpected death, your first call automatically, your thinking would be through to the police. The police would then obviously contact an ambulance service, depending on the circumstances, and have the ambulance service issue a certificate of life extinct or check all the vitals. From there, they may speak to the local GP, and the local GP might have some form of understanding. If not, the death is reported to the coroner. Okay. And the coroner's contractor would come out and remove the person from where they've passed away, take them back to the state mortuary for an autopsy 99% of the time.
If in that case, if the death is unexpected and you've got you have no idea what has happened, even the GP has not been suspicious about any of the deceased's health problems, they would automatically do an autopsy on that?
They need to give the family an opportunity to be able to object to the postmortem. It could be on religious grounds. It could be on that they're aware of what the death is, and they're saying, well, you should be able to get toxicology results or those type of things. But having that upheld is very rare. And the best process for the community is to know what every single person passes away from, because it gives us it makes us accountable. But it gives us an opportunity to be able to make sure that we're registering those deaths in a manner that is civilised, and we can also pull the statistics from that to be able to know, truthfully, how many people passed away from things like cancer or heart attack, strokes, those type of things. And without a thorough investigation system, then that's let down, and then funding's let down. All those type of things flow on as an effect.
Of course. Okay, so from that point, the coroner has taken the deceased and had a look, and he's determined the cause of death. What happens to the deceased at that point?
Once an autopsy, say, has been completed, and the coroner is happy that we can proceed with a burial or cremation, between the family and ourselves, we make application through to the coroners to be able to have that person released back into our care. As soon as that happens, we obviously bring them back into our care and carry on as if it's any other normal funeral service. There's obviously some things that you would want to be mindful of if your loved ones had an autopsy, and that's providing appropriate clothing and bits and pieces so you can't see where the autopsy has been performed for, say, private viewing or even family or public viewing.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so, and of course at that point, if it has been a sudden passing, they may not even have a funeral director, but of course Purslows actually do a lot of community work, so the chances are they probably know of Purslows and others that they can call. So is it something that happens a lot where people just call out of the blue and say, look, we've had this tragedy, we've had this unfortunate happening in our family, how can you help?
Every day.
Is that right? Every day? Yeah.
You never know what's going to be at the end of that telephone call.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to be prepared to be able to offer as much assistance as we can to the family member, to the community at large, when it comes to being able to give them appropriate and accurate advice as to the next steps that they should be taking. And that can be advice on how to approach the coroner. That could be advice on the right celebrant to be able to use. That could be, choosing burial or cremation if it hasn't been nominated or never discussed with other family members. Music, eulogies.
Yes.
All of those type of things. It's amazing what gets packed into a funeral service now.
Yes.
We spend years sometimes planning our weddings,
Yes.
and I reckon there's more involved in a funeral than there is in a wedding, and sometimes we're doing it in 1, 3, 7 days.
Yes, well, of the discussions that we've had over the last number of months, I can see that, and it's really something that if you have the opportunity to do beforehand, it's much, much better, and it leaves people or your family and loved ones in no doubt what your wishes are, and it gives you a path, actually, to start proceedings, doesn't it?
And a clear and easy path. If a person has done their own due diligence, as they've, say, completed a will, when you complete those type of documents, you should be completing the documents that really enable people to be able to move forward, execute that will. But before you can execute a will, you've got to have a burial or cremation. So first steps first. We've got great resources at any of our funeral homes that people can come in and pick up at no cost, and just really use it as an addendum to their wills, nominating, choice of burial or cremation, what type of coffin you may wish. Amount of times I've heard of, if I just put me in a cardboard box, I've had $1 for every time that
That's
happens.
right, and bury me under the lemon tree.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
While it's possible, it's just not that possible.
No,
in the metro area. So there's a lot that needs to be considered. And off the top of your head, you would know what you want for yourself most of the time. But when people are second guessing themselves, it puts people under a lot more strain at that particular point in time. So, we've also got consultants that can come out at no cost and sit with families and work through the personal information guide. They can look at payment options if they want to, being able to prepay funerals or pay them off over a period of time. They're all options that we provide as a service to the community. Yeah. And people need to just, to take us up on them. I always think, I heard of an American a few months ago that was doing seminars on dining with death. Dining with death, interesting. So you'd go out and you'd sit with families and they would sit there and they'd all talk about what they wanted for their funeral service and he would note take it and then provide it back to them. It's not that hard to have that conversation with with your loved ones and with your family, especially if you're not terminally ill. Nothing wrong with you. That's right. You're better off having that conversation then than you are having that conversation as you start to get ill.
And of course, we've talked about this in previous episodes of Lifting the Lid about having that conversation, how important it is and how much easier it makes it for your loved ones if you do happen to pass suddenly, over an extended period. If you have an illness and it's coming, you do have that opportunity to perhaps do it if you haven't already done it. But a sudden death doesn't give you that opportunity, does it? Which is why it is so important that you have that conversation so that your family knows and they don't, as you say, have to second guess anything.
And, it's always a little bit of an issue, Weddings and funerals, they can bring out the best or the worst of people.
Yes.
And if you've got a major decision like choosing burial or cremation that needs to be made and you've got siblings at loggerheads with that, that's not helping them through, that grieving process either.
Indeed.
So you need to be mindful of the fact that if you're not going to, pre-plan or pre-arrange any of your funeral arrangements, at least make some basic steps and nominate some of the major things that you want. Where you're to be buried or where you're to be cremated. They're the big things because a lot of people say, well, maybe he wanted to go back with his parents and they might live over the other side of the country and, Mum might have bought a grave 35 years ago. That might now be expired.
Yes.
You just check into it a little bit, or ask the funeral director to check into it for you.
Yes, exactly. And of course, the other thing is that we also have covered in previous episodes is organ donation. That's something that you really should, as part of the talking about or dining with death, which is, I think, it's a great expression. You should talk about that with your family as well, shouldn't you?
I think it's very, very important. The amount of organ donation that we have in Western Australia is very, very, very poor. And that's the system letting down quite often. Not actually the person who's said, okay, yes, I'm fine to donate my organs. It could be the fact of where they've passed away. It could be how they've passed away, whether they can be retained, whether they have any disease within those particular organs. But also the method in which we go about telling our families that we want organ donation. Because you might put down, yes, okay, I want an organ donation, but then, your spouse might say, no. We never discussed that, and, I can't see that he would have wanted to do that. And then the whole decision is turned over.
Yeah, which is terribly sad, isn't it?
And that happens probably more regularly than anything else.
Well, it's one I definitely have had that conversation with my entire family about my wishes in that regard because, I just think it is so important. So okay, we get to the point where the deceased is in your care at Perslow's, and then then there's the process of, particularly if it's a sudden death, you have to go through the process of working out what you want for the funeral, how it's going to work, and what things you want included and what things you don't want included. So that's a fairly lengthy conversation, I would have thought.
Yeah, look, if you looked at how funerals were arranged 10, 15, 20 years ago, it used to take half an hour.
Yeah.
It was a matter of getting the details required for the Registrar General's office and the cemetery, and there weren't a lot of options. there's now a myriad of options, and we're the best to be able to offer advice on whether those options are suitable or not suitable, whether they've, are going to play an important part within the funeral service, and to be able to tailor-make something to the individual. Not every funeral service should be anywhere close to the same, because each of us are individuals, and we should be able to put our stamp on that in some way. And whether that's coaching families as to how best to provide a eulogy, whether that's using symbolic music that the deceased might have loved or, listened to, or getting in live performers and artists, and, things like even the choice of flowers or donating what people would spend on flowers to, a good cause or a charity. There's so much involved, now to be able to put a really good funeral service together. But what I always say to most of my families is the fact that once we've actually sat down with you and we've done that hard yards, that couple of hours of really sorting everything out, then our families should be able to walk away with very little to do and leave it to the funeral director to be able to make sure it all comes together. So we can deal with things like the ministers, the celebrants, get the music that you require, deal with the florists, deal with the dove people if that's what it is. Yeah, of course. If that's what you wanted. And that's why you choose a funeral director. It takes away a lot of those burdens of being able to jump hoops to be able to get done what you need to. Yeah.
And of course it is a good thing to know your funeral director. As you so often say, it's better to know one when you don't need him rather than try and find one when you do. And it's not really macabre or out of place to go and talk to a funeral director before you really need one.
Oh, I would recommend it.
Yes,
I reckon I'm pretty personable. You can
walk
in our door anytime and sit down and have a coffee.
Yeah,
I encourage people to come into the funeral homes, and we use our funeral homes for lots of different things. Being able to provide facilities for local organisations to have meetings or concerts and all of those type of things. So the more people we can get into the funeral homes, you'll see it's not a scary place. It's very contemporary. It's very lively. It's got a great feel about it. We've done a lot of work being able to bring things from the dark ages into the new. And they're underutilised facilities. So if there's community members or people in the community that need something to hold an event, we're happy for them to be able to come into the funeral homes and have a look. Or if they're just curious, you're driving past, come and knock on the door, say hello, and you come and have a look.
Yeah, certainly.
There's nothing to hide.
No. But of course the other side of it is just think about the fact that if you have made those sort of connections and so on beforehand, wouldn't it be a real comfort to know that you could just pick up the phone and call you and say, Daniel, this has happened, can you help us? I mean, if you had that in the back of your mind and the card in your pocket, wouldn't that be an absolutely fantastic thing to be able to do in a time of great need?
It's always nice to have that comforting voice at the end of the phone. We're probably the only funeral directors that I can think of that has a model where the first person that you're speaking to is the person who follows you through that all the way along. So that gives you a little bit of familiarity, But if you were to know that person anyway, and I'd get a call every day from somebody who's had a loss, who knows me and says, can you look after this family or can you look after my family? And that's the nicest thing for me is being able to support my friends, my family, my local communities, my dignitaries, everybody along the way that I've been able to meet and to be able to get out there and socialise with. And I do a lot of networking. And you wouldn't think a funeral director would be out there doing a lot of networking.
Yeah.
But I've got nothing to sell.
No.
So for me to go out and sit with a group of like-minded people and say, how can I help you?
Yeah.
It has a different connotation to it coming from me than somebody who's trying to sell you
something or other,
a load of furniture or whatever it might
Indeed it is. And that's so important as well. And of course, Perslows do a great deal in the community, and I recall the Anglican blanket appeal that you're working on as part of the Perslows service to the community.
We are. We're running that at the moment. It's still running now. And after this morning was the coldest morning in 4 years.
Unbelievable.
I would suggest if you can have a look in the back of your cupboards, have a look at any blankets, and any blankets that you bring down to any of our funeral homes, we'll match them and go and buy another blanket. And so we're giving blanket for blanket to Anglicare to be able to make sure that they're getting out into the needy parts of the community this time of year.
That's fantastic. So anybody that does have blankets that they no longer use and are prepared to donate, all they have to do is drop into any one of Perslow's funeral homes, take the blanket there, and they'll match it 1 for 1.
Yep, and we've got a pretty wide range of where our funeral homes are. You know, we've got from Mandurah to Fremantle to Vic Park, Midland, Wangara, North Perth. So there's going to be a funeral home that's reasonably close to you.
Absolutely.
That you're able to drop those in. And look, how nice to know you're giving double warmth, not just the unselfishness from yourself giving a blanket, that you're actually giving another blanket on top of that.
Indeed. And, of course, take the opportunity when you do come in with the blankets to have a chat and talk about maybe what you might do if something happened in your family that in which you may require the services of a funeral home.
Unfortunately, Murray, there's not too many maybes about it.
No.
You know? There's two things sure in life. They say death and taxes. So you might as well plan, you know, and it doesn't matter if you're young, whether you're middle-aged or in your senior years. You're better off planning now, you know, and at least just putting something down or having those conversations or those talks. And if you need us to facilitate those talks for you and you'd like to invite the family around for a cup of tea, we can facilitate those talks with everyone as well.
So use that excuse, if you like, or reason to go in and take those spare blankets and have a chat to the staff at the at Perslow's and get to know them and find out what it's all about. And you'll find out most of what we've said on lifting the lid over the last few months will be covered in those conversations as well. Excellent. Daniel, thank you so much for being with us today, and rug up because it's quite cold outside.
Murray, it's always a pleasure.
Talk to you soon, and we'll be back on the Sattler Files very shortly.
This is the Sattler.
A kiss, a long embrace, a fond farewell should be personal. That's why Perslow funerals allow you to remember the life of your loved ones in a way that truly reflects their individual character. It's the difference that makes every goodbye unique. For more information about planning a special goodbye, visit perslowfunerals.com.au, because every goodbye is different.
This is the Sattler 5.